If you've ever wondered why white paint sucks, I have wondered that too. I meant to say, have you ever wondered if all white paint sucks? But let's just use this take anyway. Stay tuned, we'll find out.
This video is sponsored by Voxlink, but more on that later.
Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Kira and today we are taking a look at white paints. If you've ever wondered, does all white paint suck or is it just the one I have here? Well, we're going to find out. We're going to test all the top brands. We got our hands on so many of these, but we have a little help coming in later on in the video with some paints that we couldn't get a hold of too. I'm going to be testing these through an airbrush, with a brush, all sorts of ways to find out what gives the best coverage, what is the smoothest. Stay tuned and we'll see what the results are.
White paint. The age-old problem, one that has been haunting miniature painters for years now. It's too chalky, it's too lumpy, it's too streaky, it's bubbly, it has poor coverage. Well, we are on a mission to find you the best white we could. I'm going to be tackling the airbrush whilst Kira tackles the paintbrush. All of these whites have been vortex mixed to death and are being thinned with water.
Okay, let's do this. First up is the infamous White Scar by Citadel Color. I've heard nothing but terrible things about this. I wasn't expecting much. It is a little bit chalky, it is a little bit patchy, but you know what? Once you get a few layers on, it does its job. There you go, 3 layers on and it looks absolutely fine.
Honestly, I have never put this through an airbrush. But in my experience, Games Workshop paints are normally quite good this way. And this was no exception. Unpopular opinion, but it wasn't that bad. Sure, it's not one I'd go for, but it's okay.
Alright, next up is Vallejo Color, or Vallejo, as everyone in the comments likes to correct me all the time. I'm going to keep saying Vallejo because it's easier for me. Anyway, this stuff glides on like an actual dream. The coverage is fabulous, it's so smooth. You're still going to need more than one coat. I put 3 on in the end here to get it nice and smooth, but I was really happy with this and I think it's going to be one of my favorites. Here it is with 3 coats. Don't mind that little bit on the inside of the leg where it didn't stick. I'm putting that down to bad priming. I'm not blaming the paint for that. But yeah, really happy with this one.
I use a lot of Vallejo Color and this one was really good. It's smooth, it thins nicely, it has the dropper bottles that everybody loves. It's a tiny bit glossier than some of the other paints you're going to see, but if this is the finish you like and the paint you have, go for it.
Okay, Liquitex Acrylic Ink in titanium white. This stuff is mega ultra super thin. You do not need to thin this down at all. I have used this a lot with an airbrush and I really liked it, but I've never really tried it with a brush. This stuff does not have amazing coverage. It kind of runs. Not my favorite. I put 3 coats of this on and I could not get it to cover. It's smooth. It's nice and smooth. It just has no coverage. It's giving a weird reverse contrast effect here. I'm going to stick with using this through an airbrush.
This is where Liquitex will come into its own. I wouldn't expect it to do well with a paintbrush, but through an airbrush, it is amazing. It's thin, you can go directly on. The only thing is you may need to seal this afterwards or varnish it because the paint can have a tendency to rub off. This has been my number 1 for some time, so let's see if we can beat it.
Now it's time for the people's painter, Duncan Rhodes, and his 2 thin coats. At first, I was like, oh Jesus, what's going on with this? It's thick. This stuff is thick. And it was a little bit hard to work with. I was like, oh no, I wanted this to be better. But I realized I just needed to thin this a lot more. This takes a little bit of work and you do need to thin this quite a lot. So for the 2nd and 3rd coats, I thinned it a lot more and I love, love, love the results. It is super duper smooth, super pigmented. It's really amazing. I was kind of hoping I'd get away with 2 thin coats, but it is white. So I guess we can cut him some slack for this.
I was quite excited to try this one out, but I have to say it took a lot of work to get onto the miniature. The paint itself is good, but it's really thick, and the problem with that is it takes a lot of thinning. With a bit more practice, I'm sure you can get this looking better than that, but I found it to be a little glossy and a little difficult to work with.
Okay, we've got Pro Acryl by Monument Hobbies, Bold Titanium White. I had high hopes for this one because this seems to be all the tubers' favorites, all the professionals' favorites. Everyone recommended this to me, so I thought it was going to be amazing. And it is very good. I started using it like this. I was like, look, oh my God, amazing coverage, smooth. I might get away with 1 coat. But let me tell you, when this stuff dries, it dries streaky. It's streakier after it dries. It's super weird, but it does actually have really good coverage and it is smooth. You just need to be very careful with your brush strokes.
I hadn't used this one before either, and very much like the Duncan paint, it needed some time to work to get through the airbrush, but the overall result was very good. The dropper bottle is perfect for this kind of thing, and you get a really nice, clear, clean white finish on the model. I recommend. Most of us spend a lot of time in our miniatures, whether it's assembling, painting, or playing. But gaming and meeting like-minded players can be tough. Well, this is where our video sponsor Voxlink comes into play. This is the ultimate tabletop gaming community app. It does everything, and I mean everything. With a game-finding feature, you can easily locate opponents, tournaments, or events in your area. Hell, you may even make some new friends along the way. Voxlink will connect you with nearby players, playing the games you want to play wherever you are. It has a built-in message board so you can regale everyone with the epic moments from your battles. Local gaming stores can promote and publish upcoming events, and they gain access to a whole host of community building tools. Voxlink is going to be a game changer for the wargaming world, but it needs you to get involved. Come and join the Voxlink community over on Kickstarter, and let's get this flying out of the gates. The Kickstarter is live now, and you can join with the link in the description. So check it out, get signed up, and let's get gaming. Right, let's get back to the video.
Okay, now I know what you're thinking, and I'm thinking it too. Why have we included a paint pen in this? And it sort of started out as a joke, but then it got really good. It's really pigmented and really smooth, but obviously no one's painting a mini with a marker. But do think about this. If you ever have to do really, really fine edge highlighting, like on the edge of a sword or something like that, this could actually be really handy. Greenstuff World Nuclear White. This stuff is very, very thick when you pop it on your palette, so you need to water it down quite a bit. But when you do that, you lose a lot of coverage, so it can be tricky to work with. The color is nice, the finish is nice, but there's just too much fiddliness. There are better options out there. This is going to take you longer than it needs to take you.
Greenstuff World are a very well-known brand for their airbrush paints, and this one didn't really disappoint. It didn't take much work to get on, although the finish was a little grayer and flatter than I would have usually expected, but it went on very well. Nothing bad to report. Perfectly fine.
Okay, we've got Tamiya Flat White. I'm not a huge fan of the pot. I think it gets a little bit messy with the screw cap all the time. It is a little bit streaky, but this stuff is mega, mega thin. You don't have to thin this at all. But I am putting on 3 thin coats here, and as you'll see in a second, the coverage is average. It's okay. I wouldn't reach for this if I was using a brush to get the white on.
This one was recommended to me by Miles from Little Legend Studios over on Facebook, a great painter, and boy oh boy was I not disappointed. This is slightly thicker than the Liquitex, but a great finish. It required no thinning to go through the airbrush, and it really was a true flat white. Probably my new favorite so far, and maybe my favorite going forward as well. A really nice color.
Scale Color White. Scale Color White. This stuff did absolutely nothing for me. It's chalky, it's hard to work with, it's streaky, it's just not good. It's not good. I almost wanted to just give up halfway through doing the first layer. It was just, I knew this is going to be bad. I'm sorry, Scale Color. I love you, but this is not the one. This is not the one. That's 3 coats. So make of that what you will.
I was expecting great things from this one because I'm very used to using these Scale 75 air paints. This one in the end was really good, but it took a lot of work to get there. And even with multiple layers, I couldn't quite get this to a clear, final bright white finish. But not a bad paint. I'm sure the air range one is a little better. The footage for the final few paints was sent to us by Benji from Benji's Hobbies, so go and check him out, and thank you for helping out with this one. So this is his review of the paints. Army Painter. This is the one I had the lowest expectations of, but actually turned out to be my favourite. It needed little thinning, but 3 coats ended up giving me a really solid and smooth finish. Not much streakiness and minimal brush marks left in it. AK Interactive Intense Colours White. Much like the Army Painter, it was pretty smooth going on and covered reasonably well. But I did have to give a 4th thin coat to make it completely opaque and not leave any patchiness. It dried nicely and is probably my second favourite after the ones I tried. Looks good. Chimera Colors. Now, I had high hopes for this paint after all the good things I'd heard. It came out of the bottle a lot thicker than the others, so I felt it needed more thinning. The first layer started off okay, but seemed to fall apart with the thinning. I'm not sure if maybe I thinned it too much, but if I hadn't, it would have left a thick and goopy finish. It needed 4 layers to cover properly, and then it looked a bit lumpy. It also dried very matte.
Okay, welcome back. You've seen all the paints in action. You've seen them with a brush. You've seen them with an airbrush. Thanks to Benji as well for doing those ones that we didn't have access to. So what do you think? What's your favorite? I think if I had to narrow down my top 3, it would be Pro Acryl, Vallejo, and Too Thin Coats. If I had to choose one, I think maybe I might go for the Too Thin Coats. But all 3 of those are brilliant. They all take their own little pizzazz, do you know what I mean? Some of them take a lot of thinning, some of them take no thinning at all. I think through the airbrush, flat white was probably the winner. But overall, I think my favorite might be Too Thin Coats, with Pro Acryl maybe just a half step behind. Pro Acryl has the nicest bottle. Vallejo is probably the cheapest, but I know that's just for us EU people. But yeah, I think Too Thin Coats is my absolute favorite. The Games Workshop one, White Scar, everyone complains about this. I didn't think it was as bad as people made out. And annoyingly, I think the actual best coverage one was this stupid pen that we kind of just put in there as a joke. But you can't use this, you can't use that. It doesn't get into all the corners and stuff. So yeah, which one are you going to buy? Which one do you have and swear by? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe and I'll see you next time.